In the dying light of a crisp evening, a restaurant mogul carefully dressed in worn, ragged clothes, turning himself into an unassuming figure that would go along with the most marginalized people in society. He was headed for one of his upscale establishments, a place where he was unrecognizable even to his most trusted employees. This was no random act of charity or simple social experiment. Beneath the disguise lay a calculated plan to assess the character of those who would someday possibly inherit his food empire. He stepped into his restaurant with the knowledge that he had grown up in but felt foreign to him at the moment, prepared to observe how his staff would react to a stranger who was apparently homeless. What happened would be far more enlightening than he had ever considered, and it shook the very foundation of his previously held ideas, sending ripples that would determine the course his family business would take in the end. Mr. Santiago's life was anything but a silver spoon story. Growing up in Aurora, Illinois, he knew the taste of struggle well. Raised by a single mother working for minimum wage, he learned early that success meant hard work and determination. He started from the bottom dishwashing in a restaurant, working his way up the culinary ladder to assistant cook. But Santiago was never one to be content with the status quo. Driven by ambition, he enrolled in night business classes at the local community college, burning the midnight oil while working full-time. His first restaurant was humble, a small establishment with a simple menu that somehow captured the hearts of local diners. It was a testament to his passion and skill. Everything changed when Benny secured his first bank loan to open a restaurant in Chicago. What started as a small venture soon blew out of proportion into a food empire. Awards starting pouring in, top chefs fought for a spot in his kitchens, and his reputation grew exponentially. He became the most respected restaurateur in the area, a self-made success story that seemed to defy all odds. But time and sickness were not kind masters. As his health failed him, Mr. Santiago was slowly confined to his house, no longer able to personally manage his restaurants. Serious talks with doctors about the need to get his affairs in order made him confront the painful reality that he was alone. No wife, no children, no family to inherit his life's work. The question of succession weighed heavily upon his mind. The advice of a lawyer to give everything to some mentee or charity seemed empty. He wanted something more, somebody who knows what it's like to struggle. He was suddenly struck by the lightning. He was going to test his prospective heirs personally. He set out to visit his restaurants, dressed in threadbare clothes, leaning on a second-hand cane with his beard grown wild. And at every stop, the same disturbing pattern unfolded. Security was called at the Mockingbird. At Lure Desert Oils, a hostess brutally turned him away, suggesting he search through garbage for leftovers. Cinnamon was no different. Another hostess rudely expelled him, citing dress codes and exclusivity. With each rejection, Santiago's resolve hardened. These were the people running his life's work, the employees he had entrusted to represent his brand. He realized he had become disconnected from the very establishments that bore his name. The management firm he had relied on for decades had clearly failed to instill the values of compassion and respect that had been the cornerstone of his own success. A plan was forming, a test that would reveal not just competence but character. Mr. Santiago was starting to lose hope. Maybe none of my employees truly believe that everyone deserves friendly treatment, he thought with a heavy heart. Still, he decided to give one last restaurant a try, Bambino. It had an elegant ambiance, reminiscent of his first establishment in Aurora, and it specialized in authentic Italian cuisine, his favorite. This time he chose a different approach. Heading to the back of the restaurant, he knocked on the service entrance. The door opened, revealing the head chef. "Yes?" the chef asked, his tone neutral. "Can I get a meal here? I have the money to pay," Mr. Santiago said plainly. "Wait here a moment," the chef replied before closing the door. Certain the chef would return with the manager or security to send him away, Mr. Santiago braced himself, but instead, the door reopened and the chef invited him inside. "Thank you. May I ask your name?" Mr. Santiago inquired. "Benjamin Flynn," the chef replied with a polite nod. "I'm the head chef here." Chef Flynn guided Mr. Santiago to a quiet table near the kitchen, a space clearly reserved for special circumstances. Mr. Santiago settled into his seat, grateful for the gesture. The staff treated him with exceptional kindness, and when the meal concluded, he requested the check. "It's already been taken care of," Chef Flynn said. "Why would you do that? I told you I have money," Mr. Santiago said, feigning irritation though deeply moved. "Sir, I could tell you've saved up for this meal. The food here is extraordinary, but I admit the prices can be steep. You should hold on to your money," Chef Flynn said sincerely. Curious, Mr. Santiago leaned forward. "You know, a lot of other restaurants turned me away. Why didn't you?" Chef Flynn frowned. "That's awful. If someone has the money to pay, they should be welcomed anywhere. I let you in because I understand how it feels to be in your shoes. I was homeless for years before a kind man took a chance on me. He gave me a job and trained me to be a chef. And now you're here, in one of the best restaurants in town," Mr. Santiago noted, encouraging him to share more. Chef Flynn smiled. "It's a dream job, really. I admire the restaurateur who built this place. One day I hope to open my own restaurant, a place where everyone, rich or poor, feels welcome. But for now, this is where I belong." Mr. Santiago listened, a smile spreading across his face. Chef Flynn didn't recognize him. His disguise was that good. But it was just that which made the chef's kindness seem even more sincere. Mr. Santiago turned to the chef and gave a most sincere thank you, his eyes with a depth that Benjamin Flynn couldn't grasp. He rose slowly, putting several crisp dollar bills on the table before leaving. Chef Flynn watched him go, returning to the rhythm of the kitchen. Later that evening, Wendy, a waitress at the restaurant, confronted Flynn in utter dismay. "Chef, that man left $1,000, she exclaimed, fanning out the large note. Disbelieving eyes wide with shock, Flynn rushed outside, hoping to hunt down the mysterious patron for a refund. The man had vanished into the streets, leaving them empty. Finally, Flynn decided to share his windfall with his staff, the same gesture of generosity with which he had greeted the stranger. Months went by, until the day news of Mr. Santiago's passing shook Flynn to his roots. As he watched in shock, a television broadcast informed him that the homeless man he had helped was the person who had died. 1 week later, an even stranger revelation arrived in the form of a lawyer's letter. The letter was intimate, revealing all. Mr. Santiago explained his elaborate test, his disguise, and the deep reason behind his choosing. In well-thought-out words, he did entrust Flynn with his restaurants, but most especially with his legacy. The last lines were both a challenge and a blessing. "I hope you're up to the challenge of being the most important restaurateur in town. Your food is good, but now comes the hard part. Good luck." Overwhelmed, Flynn could only whisper 2 words of gratitude that seemed simultaneously too much and not enough. "Thank you. Thank you." Now it's your turn. What do you think about this story? Have you ever witnessed something similar? We'd love to hear your thoughts and experiences in the comments down below. Share your perspective, and let's start a conversation about kindness, compassion, and unexpected moments of human connection.